to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much, and thank you, Commissioner Driscoll, for leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. We have no board members wishing to join via Zoom. Okay, so we'll move on to the next. So now we will move on to our awards and recognition, and we would like to introduce our PSTA summer interns. We have some great young people who are here with us today, and we have Tamika Wright, who is PSTA's Deputy Director of Talent Management, who will introduce them to us. Good morning.
Good morning, Chair Fig Sanders, members of the board, Mr. Miller. My name is Dr. Tamika White, and I'm PSTA's Deputy Director of Talent Management in our Human Resources Department. It's really exciting, and I'm so pleased today to introduce you to our 2025 summer interns. At PSTA, we are committed to building a healthy community and workforce, and through our continued partnerships with local colleges and universities and with the Boley Center Summer Youth Internship Program, we're exposing young people to careers in public transit and building a strong pipeline of future talent. These internships have given our students a number of professional firsts, from hands-on experience in their departments to the opportunity to speak at a board meeting like this one today. Each of these students has brought curiosity, commitment, and energy to their work here at PSTA. They'll now introduce themselves and share one thing they've learned or really enjoyed about their internship here with us this summer. Up first, we have Keaton Duke.
Hello, good morning, everyone. My name is Keaton Duke. I'm 21 years old, and I go to the University of South Florida at the Tampa campus mostly. And I'm working with the marketing team over this summer. So far, I've enjoyed the opportunity to share PSTA's message through outreach campaigns. And a big goal of mine is to invoke the feeling that public transit is the best form of transportation within our community.
You're hired.
Hello, good morning. My name is Zaria Hart. I'm 17 years old. I go to St. Pete High School as a senior. I'm a summer intern in the mobility department, and one thing that I like about the mobility department is how we make it our top priority to help our riders get to their designated destination. Thank you.
All right.
Hello, my name is Xavier Drake. I'm 19 years old and currently a sophomore at SPC, attending the Gibbs campus. I am interning the IT department this year. One thing I've learned all about was the help desk. That's via email and voicemail. And I've really appreciative of the time that I've got to intern the entire IT team. Thank you.
All right.
Good morning. I am Derek Bristol. I am 18. I go to Miles College where I am a sophomore. I am a part of the customer service / IT team. One thing I've enjoyed about working here is learning the different cogwheels that form PSTA and the great people that turn them.
All right. I like that. Nice.
Good morning. My name is Camille Simpson. I am 17 years old, and I am entering my senior year at Gibbs High School. I'm interning with the transportation department in an administrative role. And one thing that I've learned is how much planning and teamwork goes into making sure our buses get to their destination safely and on time. Thank you.
All right. Very good. All right. Welcome.
Great job, everybody. Thank you so much, interns, for those introductions. And again, thank you so much to the board and our leadership team here at PSTA for recognizing our interns today and continuously supporting programs like this. It's been a valuable experience, as you can see, for these young people, and it really is a great opportunity for PSTA to invest in our future transit leaders. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that presentation, and welcome to our interns. Okay, I'm going to take a point of privilege to just share the fact that I used to run a summer intern program, and that was one of the most rewarding experiences that I had, to see our young people and to introduce them. And a lot of times they do travel that journey of what areas that they interned in. So welcome. This is a valuable experience for you all, and congratulations, PSTA, as you said, Doctor, to invest in our young people. So welcome to PSTA. Brad, did you want to have anything?
No, I'm just also very happy that they're here. I think I kind of freaked out our gentleman who's working in the IT department by asking him to fix my iPad on the first day of his job, and he ran away from me. But now he's doing now he can fix it great. So I've seen growth just this summer.
Thank you.
Thank you, and welcome. Now we'll move on to our public comment. Now we have, do we have anyone that has any cards? If you would like to speak, you have to fill out a green card and get it to the staff at the front table. Speakers will be recognized in the order in which the cards are received. Are there any members of the public here who wish to make a comment? And if yes, please state your name and address if you've completed a card. No cards? Okay. So we'll go ahead and move on now to our consent agenda. Are there any items that a board member wishes to pull?
Move approval.
Okay. Second. All right, can you please open our voting system now that we have a motion and it's been properly second?
It's going.
It's allowing us to vote, but we don't see. Can you see everyone else's?
Yes, I can see everyone. Yes. Commissioner Walker,
Yes.
and I don't know why it's not showing up, but it's a unanimous 12 to
0.
12.
Okay, thank you. So the motion passes 12-0. Thank you for that. Now we will have our committee updates, and since there were no track meetings this month, we will just have the Ford Pinellas report that I will provide for us this morning. So the Planning Council, the Metropolitan Planning Organization for Pinellas County, the Ford Pinellas Board held its public meeting in person on July 9th, 2025. The official board actions were: it recommended approval of the fiscal year 26 Pinellas Planning Council's budget, as well as the approval of the countywide plan map amendment in St. Petersburg. The board received a presentation on the new Ford Pinellas Explained story map. The presentation is available on the Ford Pinellas website for those interested in learning more about what our Pinellas Metropolitan Planning Organization does. The regional activities report was a management and legal consultant has been selected for the MPO merger of Pinellas, Hillsborough, and Pasco counties. The consultant will be approved at the Hillsborough's TPO's August 2025 meeting. Does anyone have any comments in regards to the Ford Pinellas report? Hearing and seeing none, we will now move on to our information items. Next, we will have 6A, which is the benchmarking PSTA's fair revenue and expense levels. At the request of the Finance and Planning Committee, PSTA's Planning and Data Analyst Manager Devin Deal will give a presentation that he provided at the committee meeting last week that benchmarks PSTA's subsidy levels against other companies' comparable cities. Good morning, Devin. How are you?
Good morning, Chair, PSTA Board. My name is Devin Deal, Planning and Data Analyst Manager. And today I'm here to talk to you about one of my favorite things, and that is benchmarking. It gives us a really useful tool to compare where we stand against other agencies to see what we're good at and what we're not so good at. One thing that helps us do that is we are a member of the American Bus Benchmarking Group. There's about 25 peer transit agencies that are members of this group, and annually we provide all of our operational data, Everything that we do as an agency essentially goes into the American Bus Benchmarking Group, and we get really comprehensive benchmarks on how we stand nationally. What we can also do is take our peer agencies and use the National Transit Database. Every agency that receives federal funding has to report all of their operational information to the National Transit Database. This captures your ridership, your miles traveled, your hours, your expenses, your revenue, and all this information is public. So what I did today is I took our American Bus Benchmarking Group peer agencies and used the National Transit Database data to compare our fare revenue, our expenses, and our net subsidy per ride. And what we see is that our fare revenue is low compared to peer agencies around the country. However, our expenses are also relatively low compared to our peers, and our net subsidy per ride is about average. So first of all, as I said, our fare revenue is low. There's several reasons for that. One, the National Transit Database information does not include the transportation disadvantage money that we get from the state of Florida for our low-income riders. This doesn't include our UPass revenue that our marketing is actively negotiating contracts with. So there's a few sources of revenue that don't directly go into our fare revenue. However, they are on the back end pulled into our revenue. We didn't include that in these calculations because I don't get that for other agencies. So I wanted to compare apples to apples, our direct fare revenue at the point of sale compared to other agencies' direct fare revenue at the point of sale. We also have the Veterans Program that allows our veterans to ride free, which as a veteran myself, that's something I'm very proud of that PSTA offers. So there are a few things that drive down our average fare. So what you're looking at in this graph here, all of the graphs in this presentation will be in the same format. All of our peer agencies are in blue, our Florida peer agencies are in green, and PSTA is in orange. The purple line that you see running across horizontally on the graph is the group average for all of the agencies here. We see PSTA is in the bottom quarter of fare revenue compared to other peer agencies. We're just over 60 cents for our average fare. Again, I did note that doesn't include TD and UPass. That would bump us up closer between 80 cents and $1. But again, to keep it apples to apples, our direct fare revenue, point of sale at the fare box, is lower than our peers, and it's lower than the group average. However, compared to our peers, our expenses are also relatively low. There's a few ways that we measure that. The first is, how much does it cost us for every ride that we offer as an agency? We are slightly below the group average, about 4 cents below the group average, and we're right in the middle. We see some of our peers, like Hart Over the Bridge, they have a slightly lower cost per ride. However, we know that every ride isn't the same. In Pinellas County, our geography tends to provide for longer transit rides. We know there's a lot of rides from city to city, from St. Petersburg to Clearwater. Our two of our highest ridership routes, Route 52 that travels from Grand Central to Clearwater, and Route 18 that does the same thing just on Alt 19, those carry about 150 passengers a month cumulatively. Two of our highest ridership routes travel from St. Pete to Clearwater. And most of our longest routes tend to have the highest ridership. And so we tend to get a longer trip than a lot of our peers for a single rider. And so how can we account for that in the cost? We can look at how much it costs us for every mile that we're running revenue service. So this shows us for every single mile that PSTA runs, how much does it cost us? And we are just over roughly $10 per mile in revenue service, in about the bottom third of the group as far as cost per revenue mile, and we are pretty well below the group average. We also look at our cost per hour. For every hour that PSTA is running revenue service, where do we stand? And again, here we see that we are below the average, and we're about in the bottom third in cost per revenue hour. And so next, we'll kind of get to the heart of this is, what does our subsidy look like? And it's pretty average. PSTA is just below the group average, and we are about middle of the pack in our net subsidy. That's not to say that we are proud of being middle of the pack in how much we subsidize every ride, but just pointing out where we stand. And also, there's no transit agency in the country that pays for itself, so it's really a question of how much are we comfortable subsidizing every ride. And I think at PSTA, we know that our riders who live on the beaches, who live in downtowns and things like that, they typically can't afford to live there. And so for us, it's more of an investment in getting these workers and getting these students, the 70,000 Pinellas County school students that we carry every month, to where they need to go. And how much are we comfortable investing in that? And so this is where we stand, and with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you. I see no, okay, Commissioner McCann.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think this will be quick. Talking about our ride revenue being low, one of the things you mentioned was that veterans program, which I also think is great. Do we have a sense of whether other cities offer a similar program?
Yes, great question, we do. So I have been researching that for quite a while, and what I found is that PSTA is the largest agency in the country I could find that offers unlimited free rides to veterans. There are several agencies that do some kind of combination of free rides for disabled veterans or reduced fare for disabled veterans, but we were the largest agency in the country that I could find that offered that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Driscoll.
Thank you. Looking at the comparison, I was specifically looking at Orlando. So across these different graphs, they have, they're on sort of the higher end when it comes to the average fare. So the fares are higher. Their cost per ride is lower. Like their expenses are lower. Cost per mile. So, and, okay, so, and then the cost per hour. So what's the gap? So they're taking in, I mean, of course, they still have a subsidy, right? But I'm just wondering how are, they're able to keep their fares higher. How much higher are they compared to us? So if we're doing, if we compared against several cities or several transit agencies, but just going head to head with Orlando, I kind of like what's showing up here for them.
Yes.
So what lessons can we learn from that? How do we compare with them?
Absolutely. I think a big part of that is that PSTA as an agency, we do offer very expansive discount programs that perhaps some agencies don't offer. One example is the Transportation Disadvantage Program that the state provides. That's where our low-income riders can pay $11, and then the state will subsidize roughly $70 that they pay to PSTA for that rider, and they get unlimited rides for the month. The state requires that that's at 100% of the federal poverty level. PSTA voted to raise that to 200% of the federal poverty level, as an example. And a good portion, I believe over a quarter of our riders participate in the Transportation Disadvantage Program. So part of that is that we as an agency do offer very expansive discount programs to our riders who need it.
Okay. That makes sense. That explains a lot of that gap. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Petrilla.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just piggybacking on Commissioner Driscoll's comments. At one of the budget meetings, we looked at the distribution between Pinellas residents versus non-Pinellas residents, and the ridership was about 60% Pinellas residents, 40% non-residents. And one of the ideas that we looked at is maintaining the low rates for residents who are the ones actually subsidizing it with our tax dollars, but then having a different rate for non-residents. And so I think that's maybe one of the things that Orlando is doing as well, where they're charging their visitors a different rate and then having a discount program for the residents. So maintain the rates low. So have we looked at a way to do that, where we have the people that actually pay into the PSTA program via their taxes maintain the low rate, but the 40%, which is a substantial number, right? Having a different rate for that and having our visitors not getting the subsidies and the discounted rides.
Yes, sir. I know you discussed that at the board workshop. I believe that would be more for our finance team. I'm not sure if there's any action on that yet.
Thanks.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Commissioner Scott.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, Lynx, they cover 3 counties, don't they, I think?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm just trying to draw some comparisons between Lynx and PSTA. I would tend to think that because they cover so much geography, that their average route would be probably longer than ours. I haven't really looked at that, though, in a while, so I just kind of curious if there's any lessons that we can learn from what they're doing. So if we could, maybe take another look at that. And then PSTA's fare structure, it's still $225, I believe, isn't it? That's our full fare?
Yeah.
And how does that, and it was been that way for a long time, and PSTA has historically been one of the higher fares in the state. Is that still the case?
That is still the case. However, we also fare cap at $5 a day. So if you ride, your third ride is 50 cents if you're paying full fare, and then
Okay.
every ride after that is free. So even though we do have the, one of the higher fares in the states, our fare capping does tend to negate that a little bit if you're a frequent
Okay.
rider.
And any idea how that compares with some of our peers here in Florida as far as,
Not off the top of my head, no, sir.
okay, that would be kind of interesting to look at, too.
Yeah.
So, okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Good, thank you. Commissioner McCann.
Thank you. Just want to touch on Commissioner Petrilla's point. Tell me if I'm right. My suspicion is that even though we don't have a separate fare for tourists versus residents, a lot of these discounted programs, like the Transportation Disadvantaged program, are only going to be available for residents. And UPass, for example, that's only going to be residents. So I think that the de facto reality is probably that we're already doing this. We're already charging tourists full fare. I'd be surprised if even any tourists who are veterans are taking advantage of the veteran discount. Does that all check out?
Yes, one correction on UPass, if you are or someone staying at the hotels there, the Tradewinds or some of our other partners, and you're out of state, you can ride with your room key and things like that at those hotels.
Got it.
But
Yeah.
typically, we do see tourists using the contactless payments, tapping their credit card, what would be a full fare for the most part.
Interesting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments?
I'll just
Go ahead.
make one additional comment that I made at the planning committee when Devin gave this presentation. Those of you who were, I think it was last month's board meeting, you remember that the members of our union came here and were concerned about Pinellas County school kids' behavior on the buses, and so we've been working on that. And about a week ago, we looked at some data and everything. We really didn't see a specific number of complaints about school kids. But what we've done and what we've partnered with the union on is a new, it's brand new, but a new philosophy about collecting the fares on the buses, with the bus operators union being very supportive of really making sure all passengers are paying the proper fare. What had happened, I believe in 2018, there was a bus operator in Tampa that got killed while driving the bus. And at that time, both the PSTA and HART worked together. We got the barriers put on the buses, between the driver and the safety barriers. And we also implemented a more, I would say, laissez-faire fare enforcement policy, because a huge number of incidents that we report to you every month that you see on the chart, they happen over the fare. They happen between the driver and a rider when they're paying the fare. And even though it's a very low amount, sometimes people get very hostile about that. And so back in 2018, when that terrible incident happened, we implemented what we called, the policy was called check, challenge, and chill. You were supposed to check to make sure the person paid the fare, tell them you didn't pay the right fare, and then let them ride. And I think just over time, that kind of eroded some of our fare revenue somewhat. And so this is a new program that we're starting, and the operators are very happy with it. They feel much more empowered now. They feel good about checking everybody's UPass and checking everyone's ID or whatever, or making sure they pay the fare. It just started last week. I think Debbie reported, like the first 3 days of it, our fare box revenue was up 8%. So we had some complaints of too many dollar bills jamming up the cash box. That's a good problem to have. So, hey, maybe we'll be zooming up this chart. We'll see. Yeah. I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that. Yeah.
Thank you for that, Brad. Commissioner Scherer.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to point out, I appreciate all the work. I mean, this is good data that I didn't have before. I just wanted to point out that, yes, I believe our fares are low, and you explained why, and I still think we could work on increasing our fares, 20 cents a ride, something like that. But I don't believe that our expenses are low. It looks like our expenses to me are right in the middle of the graph, so I would think that our expenses are not low. Our expenses are average, and I think we can do better on that. And finally, just to say that, on the average net subsidy per ride, I think $10 for me is not acceptable. You said we need to decide what's acceptable and not acceptable. I think $10 a ride is too much. I looked at the 14 cities that are doing better than we are on net subsidies per ride. That's a lot. Baltimore is at $9 per ride. That's what they charge, and they charge 75 cents per ride. That's their average. And that's why they're at $8.50 net subsidy. And Dart and Des Moines, is about at $9 and $1.35, and they're about $8 per subsidy. So I believe that if this should come for the 26 budget, if we can focus on cutting expenses, maybe cutting some routes, or whatever we got to do to get some expenses down, we can do something. We can cut expenses and raise our fares just a little bit, like these other 14 cities have done. I believe that we can, and I know this is coming up later, I believe that we can afford a full rollback on our tax millage rate. So I just wanted to point that out, that, we're really close. We need to be on this graph. We need to be moving this way, not this way, on our average subsidy per ride. And so we should be looking at cutting costs and raising fares. Like Mayor Petrilla here said, I like the idea of charging out-of-town guests a little more. Thank you.
Okay, having no more questions or comments? Okay. No, you're not lit up.
Oh, there you are.
Well, there you go.
I'm
Commissioner.
using this, I'm sorry. So I appreciate that. I just wanted to mention a couple, three things that came to mind. I did study this, of course. In fact, I was the one that requested that we go through this again today, because great presentation, Devin, great information. And we've had this discussion before about the cost per ride without the graph, and $10 I think is even less than I had calculated. But I wanted to just mention that going back to the bus study, not this current bus study, but a couple of bus studies ago, it came out in that bus study with the company out of California, that the average person, and I may not be saying this exactly right, but just to get the idea out there, that rides does not get to their destination with one ride, that they have to make a transfer most of the time. And that when you calculate that across rides, across the activity, that in this report, it was like 1.6. So it's not $10 per person, it's more like 16 to get to their destination, because they may have to transfer at Grand Central, or they may have to transfer at Pinellas Park, or someplace. They may have to take a ride and then transfer. So each one of those rides is $10. So if it's the average person is 1.6 to get, now you tell me if I'm wrong about this, Brad, to get to wherever they're going, and then 1.6 to get back home, then that's basically $16 and $16 or $32 for that person, that individual, that day, at least that trip. Maybe they're going to take another trip later on that day. What if they have a job and they're taking this every day to get to work? So it's 32, 3 or 4 days a week. I think that we need to see that as a board, to Commissioner Scheer's point, to get the expenses down and to try to be more, and so I just wanted to plant that seed. And this also goes to why I have objected in the past to having free rides at events, because it's very costly to the taxpayers of Pinellas County. And oftentimes, these events are attracting people who can certainly afford a fare. So just want to throw that out. Another point I wanted to make, I'm from Indianapolis area, and so I thought it was interesting because Indianapolis, when it came to their subsidy per, it was $10 roughly, same amount if you look at the chart. And yet, their expenses per cost per ride. This is so dramatic because their cost per ride, ours is $10 as we've been talking about, is $18. $18. And I've been following the BRT growth in Indianapolis because I'm from there. I know a lot of people from there. And they just opened their third line of BRT. And it actually went to the state legislature. The state legislature there's a bill, I believe, it passed, I'm not sure if the governor signed it, but I think so, that has made it illegal in Indiana now to have lane elimination because it has been so unpopular with the advent of not one Sunrunner, but 3, and they're at cost per ride is $18. I don't know that that's what it is. They just opened up, the Sunrunner going all the way out to the airport. I think that, so anyway, that's what I have to say is that this is great information. Sometimes it helps us to dig a little deeper and see what might be behind the story, because I was following this in Indianapolis personally, just because, like I say, I go to Indianapolis. So anyway, thank you. I hope that is helpful.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Deal. I do appreciate the presentation. Thank you. So now we're going to move into our action items, and the first one is the employee health insurance and other benefit contracts. And joining us is our PSTA's Director of Human Resources, Ms. Trish Collins, who's going to review the annual renewal of our contracts for our employee benefits. Good morning, Ms. Collins.
Good morning, Chair Fig-Sanders, and good morning to the rest of the board and Mr. Miller. As you said, I'm Trish Collins. I'm the Director of Human Resources here at PSTA, and I am bringing before the board today the employee benefits renewal for fiscal year 2026. And that covers our medical, dental, vision, and health, life insurance coverages. As you know, employee benefits are a significant portion of PSTA's budget, as they are for most organizations. And we work very hard to keep our renewal rates low and get the best possible rates that we can each year. To assist with that, we partner with an excellent benefits brokerage company called Garing Group, and we have a representative from the Garing Group, Sean Fleming. He's their senior benefits consultant. Sean is on the line with us on Zoom this morning to assist with any discussion that may follow. He's been our Garing account manager for more than a decade, and he's done a tremendous job for PSTA. So we're pleased this year that we've been able to secure a 7% renewal rate for our medical and prescription plans, and a 0% increase on our dental and vision plans, and a 0% increase on the rates for our life insurance, although life insurance rates are based on salaries, which go up a little bit each year, and so there is a small dollar amount cost adjustment to that, but the rates for life insurance are the same as well. So we're very happy with this increase of only 7% for our medical and prescription benefits, knowing that most organizations see an average of 7 to 9% increases each year. In fact, we've been able to keep our renewal rate increases low for the last 3 years, with a 0% increase 2 years ago and 5% increase last year. As always, the cost of these renewals are shared between PSTA and our employees, with the PSTA total portion being $10.64 million for fiscal year 2026. And this is within the budget that we're proposing for next year. So the action before the board today is to approve PSTA's 2026 employee benefits renewal, specifically renewing with Cigna for the medical and prescription portion with a not to exceed $10.3 million for the employer portion, renewing with Cigna for our dental insurance for a not to exceed of $200,000 for the employer portion, renewing with Versant MetLife for our vision insurance for a not to exceed of $50,000 for the employer portion, and renewing with Oaks Minnesota Life for life insurance for a not to exceed of $85,000 for the employer portion. And with that, I'm happy to turn it back over for any discussion.
Thank you. Okay. Commissioner Scott.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just curious, how did this compare with our renewal from last year? Is this higher or lower?
It is a little bit higher. Our renewal last year was 5%.
5%, okay. Have we ever thought about trying to do multiple years? I don't even know if they'd be willing to do it, but have we ever looked at putting it out in RFP for multiple years?
I think that's a really interesting idea, and something that we can explore with our broker.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the county's county's health insurance renewal was fairly flat this year, but the sheriff's went up 14%. So that's kind of the one we're struggling with this year, but, okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Walker.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I'm interested to know, do we get any incentives for wellness programs?
We do. We get funding from Cigna, our carrier, of $30,000 a year to help fund wellness programs.
All right, and I'm sorry, I think you mentioned it, but comparable to the rest of the industry, if you will.
Generally, an average increase of 7 to 9% per year.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner DeBreezy.
Remind me again, is this a fully insured plan?
Yes, it's a fully insured plan.
And if you don't know this off the top of your head, that's fine, you can follow up. Do you know what the claims to premium ratio was on medical?
I don't have that right in front of me. I apologize, but we can get that for you.
The reason I'm asking is I want to know, that's what would mostly drive the increase, and I'm curious as to with our 7% increase, what that number was. And just, it's mostly informational, but also a part of strategy maybe for next year.
Yeah, I appreciate that. We do provide that information in a quarterly report to the Finance Committee. I don't want to speak off the top of my head, but we'll make sure that information gets to you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I failed to ask, do we have any members of the public that wish to speak on this item? Okay, seeing no further requests to speak, do I have a motion to approve the contract renewals? We have a second. Properly motioned and second, or can you please open the voting system? It's not showing for me either, so, oh, there we go.
Yes.
Unanimous?
Okay, 12-0. Motion passes 12-0. Thank you so much, Ms. Collins, for your presentation and your work on this.
Thank you very much.
Next, we're going to move on to item 7B, which is our fiscal year 26 tentative PSTA tax levy for our trim notices. Joining us is Debbie Leos, PSTA CFO, who will go over the options for advertising our tentative fiscal year 2026 PSTA millage rate to be submitted to the property appraiser and included in the trim notices. Good morning.
Well, good morning, Chair Fix Sanders and the board. Debbie Leos, Chief Financial Officer here. And today, as we were just discussing, it is going to be a discussion on the tentative millage rate. We are required by statute to provide a tentative millage rate to be publicly noticed in the trim notices that will be going out. The decision is what to advertise that rate, what it should be. Our current rate is at the 0.7342. That was down from the previous year of 0.7500. And whatever we set to date will be the maximum amount that we can set. We can always go down, as we have 2 more chances to vote on this in September with the public hearings. So staff has proposed a reduction in the millage rate to 0.7300 that would be transmitted to the property appraiser. Now, it's been interesting as we've had this discussion both at the Finance Committee and Planning Committee last week. We've had individual discussions with some of you on the board. And while staff is recommending a decrease, there's also a suggestion out there to maintain it for the tentative millage, to maintain it at the same rate at the 0.7342. Now, we did not have a quorum at the Finance Committee, so it was recommended we bring it to the full discussion here. We had a great discussion at the Planning Committee meeting, and again, I think this is such an important subject. They also recommended that we discuss it openly here as to whether we maintain it for the tentative millage or to reduce it at the 0.7300. Now, I was able to find, because we're continually looking for cost savings, about $500,000 savings in the budgeted expenses to be able to achieve this. In order to be down to the 0.7300, this will bring us to a rate that we haven't seen since before 2011. We've scoured the budget. We've reduced some things, and Commissioner Scott, thank you for the most innovative cost savings that we found, which is to introduce AI into our mobility customer service. By doing so, we were able to eliminate a position currently vacant, so no one's going to be harmed by that, to be able to reduce the expenses. One-time cost, at least initially, on the software. I'm sure there'll be some ongoing ones, but it'll give us a nice test pattern to be able to see how much money we can really save, but more importantly, improve the customer experience. So the budget is balanced, and we also have services in there to the point that was being made earlier of having more premium fares that we can have that tourists use and other folks use. So we have in there continued ferry service, the Cross Bay Ferry, which will be the Tampa Bay Ferry. We also have customer service or customer improvements with being able to go online and register for some of those discount fares. Now this slide, a lot on there, but I want your takeaway to be how important is property tax to PSTA? Well, it represents at the 0.73 mils, $86.4 million. What I did is I extracted out of our budget some of the things I thought were the most direct costs related to operations. You can see that's at $107 million. So this is a very important revenue source for us here at PSTA, one that we're looking to be less reliant on, but it is important nonetheless. However, to the taxpayer, when we look at it from dissecting the dollar bill, we're off on the right-hand side at about 3.7% of every dollar paid that goes to PSTA. So again, we have a balanced budget going forward. We have investments in our new services, and we have the continued rides for the free veterans. So the action item today is to determine the tentative millage rate that'll be sent to the property appraiser, whether it be at the maintaining at the 0.7342 or reducing it to the 0.7300. With that, I would love to hear the opinions of the board.
Thank you so much. Do we have anyone from the public that wishes to speak on this item?
We have 2 cards.
2 cards, okay, thank you. We have, and please work with my pronunciation of this, Ayla Nelson.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. Are we just ready to talk now? Okay. Hi, my name is Ayla Nelson and I live in Pinellas Park. I'm here to talk about how I take the bus every day and I would like to see more money, not less, go to our buses. I started taking the bus to work 2 years ago using my school ID from Hollins High School to get to my job as a dental sterile technician. I graduated this year and I also became a certified orthodontist dental assistant. I start going at SBC in the fall and I'll be able to continue using my school ID to get to my dental hygiene classes and to my job. While I work towards becoming a dental hygienist and possibly even a dentist, my current pay doesn't allow me to afford a car or insurance. So I have to keep using the bus. My mom is raising me and my siblings on her own and works 2 jobs, so she can't drive us. Both of my siblings also take the bus to friends' house and to some school events as well. I would like you to keep money coming in at least the same as it is now and add more bus stop shelters and maybe add more buses that come more often. When I take the bus on 4th Street downtown, it's always faster than number 34, which I take to work and my best friend's house. Taking the bus is helping me become an independent adult, and it's an essential support service for me and my family until me and my siblings can make enough money to have our own cars. Thank you for listening to me today. I have been participating in advocacy and leadership training. This bus is a part of my everyday life. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nelson. Next, we have Ms. Gloria Lepic-Corrigan.
Good morning to all of you.
Good morning.
I'm speaking today not as the track chair, but rather just as a regular citizen and transit rider. And I wanted to say first that I applaud Debbie Leas for making the reduced millage rate work. But I also agree with what the young lady just said, is I would like to see us not be looking at reducing money, but rather looking at improving services. We often look at transit as a cost, and my view is that it's not a cost, it is a community good. Spending smart dollars on transit benefits not just the riders on the buses, but every person who's on a bus is not driving a car and is not making the roads busier. And we know as our county continues to grow, we all see all the apartment buildings that are being built everywhere. If there's not good transit, every one of those apartments represents another person with another car on the roads, which we do support the roads. And I'm saying that it's a really very smart planning decision for the community, for all of the residents, even if they're never going to set foot on a bus, to have a robust bus system. And so I guess the most important thing I'm saying is, let's not keep looking at this as a cost, and more as a community good. The other thing I wanted to say is that strong transit infrastructure serves businesses as well. It's not just good for the riders or even the drivers. It's good for the businesses. It brings a lot of the employees to their work. It brings a lot of people to businesses. I know for a fact that there are places I no longer shop because there is no good bus service to that location anymore. And so a reduction in the millage rate today may save a few dollars, but I would argue that it's penny wise and pound foolish. A strong transit system driven by a strong board is a major benefit to the entire community. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner McCann.
It should be green, right?
It should be. You're lit up.
All right, there we go.
There you go.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Debbie, and thank you, members of the public who came to speak. That's really important feedback for us. I think I've been thinking about this a lot, as I suspect some of the other board members have, and I think that our opinions on the ultimate millage rate are probably all across the map here on the board. When the time comes, I'm not going to be supporting any reduction in service. Ultimately, I'd love to see increases in service. I'd like to see 10-minute headways on the Sunrunner, for example. I'd like to see some of our routes that are currently once an hour be increased to be more frequent. But I keep coming back to this. All we're deciding today is the trim notice. So when we're thinking about it that way, I can't come up with a good reason to tie our hands now when we're making our future decision about what the millage rate should be. I think especially given that various funding streams are becoming more unpredictable, we shouldn't make a decision today that's going to limit our options down the road. As we've seen, our costs are going up. I want to see what public input is during the millage rate discussions that we have coming up. I think there's increasing support among the members of this county to want to have transportation options, and I think we're going to see that, and I think that's going to inform our ultimate decision on what the millage rate is. As Commissioner Albritton said at the Planning Committee, it's always easier to lower taxes going forward. It's a lot higher to raise them. So given that we've got a pretty efficient operation going here, this is not an agency full of a bunch of fat and bloat, I'm going to move to make the trim notice our current millage rate of 0.7342. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Latvala.
I have a question. Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a question for Debbie. If we make the trim notice 0.730, what does that do in terms of service?
It's not going to change the service. You may recall, just back in March, we've implemented the Community Connected Bus Network for next year. To some of the points of some of the commissioners today, we've taken a look at some of the lower performing routes and segments and have altered that, and so it's not going to impact service for this coming year. So we're going to move forward with the Community Connected Bus Network that hopefully will be more efficient and raise fares and ridership.
Okay. Thank you. And Madam Chair, since I didn't hear the second to the previous one, I'd like to make a motion to set our maximum millage rate for this coming year at 0.7300.
So for clarification, there wasn't a second to the first motion because I think we had several commissioners that wanted to speak. So we can't address another motion now until we completely satisfy the first, is that correct?
Well, you can ask for a second on that first motion. If there is none, then Commissioner Latvala.
But I think everyone wanted to hear what the other comments were before they decided. Am I correct or not? Was everyone wanting to hear what other colleagues had to say before you seconded the first motion?
I need to speak. I concur with Commissioner Latvala.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor according to legal that failed to get a second to move forward. Now we have a motion from Commissioner Latvala to set the millage rate, and we have a second. Okay, thank you so much. Commissioner Driscoll.
Thank you. Just for the record, I would have seconded that. I was waiting for some more discussion and
So that's-
to be able to
that's
speak
my
myself
questions.
before seconding.
Right.
And it's just, I mean, really, it's my bad. I should have
Okay.
just said it, but I didn't. I thought we were going to have more discussion before we started making motions.
Okay.
Because our discussion helps to inform
Each other, right.
my decisions on things, because there are a couple of different ways that we can go with this. I am supportive, as Commissioner McCann stated, we are sort of at the beginning of this process. It's not the final decision. And some really interesting ideas have come up earlier in our meeting during the benchmarking presentation. And I actually really like the ideas of exploring fare increases, whether if it's for non-Pinellas residents or in some other way, and looking at the comparison with other areas, it looks like there is some room for us to do some fare increases and those kinds of adjustments, which actually, my hope had been that we could look at that and see if there is a path to a fare increase and what that would mean, which could offset the reduction in the millage rate. So then we could have both and end up with the money that we need to not have to reduce expenses. Because I think things are pretty slim as it is. And if you look at, again, if you look at how we compare with other transit agencies, we're doing quite well. And I kind of like looking at the ones who are, charging a little bit more. I know we have subsidies, but everyone does. It's just that ours translate to the form of reduced or eliminated fare costs for riders in certain categories. So I'm not going to support the motion that has been brought forward now. I wanted to explain why, because I think the conversation earlier really gives staff a good message, some things that they can work on to bring back to us so that we could see if maybe there's another way to get what we need without having to reduce the millage rate. So I'm hopeful that if we're going to reduce the millage rate, I just don't see how these other ideas are even, why are we even bothering with this if we're just going to reduce the millage rate? Like, I'm sorry, I really want us to move forward with a healthy conversation about what our rates should look like, and that should inform what our millage rate should look like. I feel that it should be done in that order, and right now we've got time to do that. So I hope that as everyone considers their votes, I hope that you'll think about giving us that space to make some sound decisions. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Scott.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to echo what Commissioner Latvala said, and I appreciate him bringing those points up, that it's the community bus study and the changes that we've made recommended by that study is how we've been able to arrive at the budget we are. So we're actually putting improved service out on the street by focusing more on the core rather than coverage. And we made some really solid and significant positive changes to the network that I think are going to benefit riders in the long run and should increase ridership and hopefully fair revenue. And I think the changes that Brad discussed earlier, that just by enforcing the fares a little bit better has increased 8% just in a very short period of time. So, and also by taking a look at our fare structure kind of longer term, it's my hope that we can look back at this and then maybe, 6, 8, 12 months from now and go, wow, we could have maybe even gone a little deeper. But I think that this is very positive, and at the end of the day, $500,000 is only like 0.57% of the overall property tax. So I think somewhere we could very easily absorb that. So I definitely support the motion that's on the table. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Walker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I was absolutely inspired by Isla's comments. I think hopefully I didn't butcher that name, but I sincerely appreciate getting started in your professional career and then doing everything that you can to start making headway in your life. So First of all, I do believe that we need to incentivize the process of continuing on the journey that we've been on with regards to the increasing the services, doing it efficiently, and essentially continuing to drive our costs down. And I look at the $500,000 savings, and quite frankly, I really don't see that as being, that impactful. So therefore, I do believe that going forward with the .7300 is the maximum millage that we would approve via the trim notice, I believe is the right path. So I do support that initiative. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Driscoll. No, I'm sorry, Commissioner Hazelton.
Mr. Chair. Going back to the budget that is CFO Leos introduced last month, the written budget, and looking at the history over the last 10 years, back to 2015, of the revenue from tax dollars on the operating budget, ad valorem tax dollars, I think it's shocking, really, because there's a ride that has occurred in Florida due to the unbelievable raise in property values over the last 10 years. And again, as I said, I'm from Indiana, and guess what? That didn't happen in Indiana. Most places in the United States did not see the type of raise in property value that we've had in the last. As a matter of fact, I brought this up at the finance meeting, is that at the legislature this year, there was so much discussion about property tax and about doing away with property tax, which, that's another discussion. I'm not here or there on that, other than to say that this skyrocketing raise in property value, which has translated into this raise in ad valorem tax, has been a boondoggle for many public agencies. And case in point is just simply out of our own budget. And in 2015, the property tax to PSTA was $33 million. And if we pass this, as discussed, it's $86 million in ad valorem property tax coming out of Pinellas County. So $33 million to $86 million due to this raise, this unprecedented raise in our property values in Florida. So it's a discussion that's going on. It's ongoing in the legislature as to the impact that this has had on the ability to own homes in Florida. And I just want to bring this up because I think that it's very important and for us to look at all of this. I brought it up also at the finance meeting that a full rollback would be to actually go to, and this is in the summary, to actually go to 7023. It's in the summary from the budget on the agenda for the finance meeting. So we do have a lot to decide and a lot to discuss, and I think that cutting costs is what we need to be thinking about doing in order to give better service to the riders. And I know that we can balance that. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Driscoll.
Thank you, and I appreciate everything that has been said so far. I'm glad that we were able to have a discussion. I know not everyone has spoken, but I just want to give us the opportunity to revisit the initial concept here. I'm thinking about with the city of St. Petersburg, with the budget that we have proposed, the TRIB notice, all, what we're looking at there. The last few years, we've been able to reduce the millage rate. And it is fantastic when we're able to do that. But we know that we are going into a tight budget year with so many factors, including those that people from cities all over Pinellas are having to deal with. And so the budget that we're working on right now in the city is keeping the rate flat. We're not doing a reduction this year because we know that we have to use the funding that we do get to help our communities continue to recover. And also, the funding that we can usually count on is uncertain at this time in lots of areas. So if we were doing a reduction again for the city, I might consider doing a reduction here. But for the same reasons that cities are having to wrestle with this, I think that, if you're not reducing the millage rate in your own city or for the county, then why would we be doing it here? We're all in the same boat right now. And again, I think that we've got some ideas that are on the table that we should give staff an opportunity to look into and bring back to us so that we can discuss that and then make a final decision together. So that's where I stand on that. And Alan, maybe you can help me out here. I think what I am supposed to do at this point is make a motion to amend.
Right, you can make a motion to amend the motion that's on the floor.
Okay, I will move to amend the motion that's on the floor to propose the rate of 0.7342. Is that sufficient?
Yes,
Okay.
then you would ask for a second.
We need a
Okay,
second.
and so then we just need a second.
Second.
So then what you'll do first is, seems odd, but you'll take a vote on the motion to amend, and then that passes. You'll take another vote on the rate, 0.7342. If it doesn't pass, then the rate of 0.73 would be the one that you
Okay.
take a vote on.
So I got it right.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a couple more comments. Commissioner Scherer.
Well, I'm not really sure what's going on over here, but I just wanted to say, $83 million. That's what it take in 2025 is going to be, $83 million to run this organization from Pinellas County taxpayers. That's enough. Now, if we have a full rollback, it'll still be $83 million. And I believe that will get our management focused on raising revenues and cutting routes that are not being used, which will lower expenses, and will get us around $8.50 to $9 per ride, and which would easily make up for the losses on revenues. That being said, we need to focus on raising revenues. We need to focus on cutting costs. That being said, Commissioner Latvala's motion is a step in the right direction, so I will support that reduction that, and the maximum rate he's proposing should Commissioner Driscoll's a motion to amend that fail. Does that make sense?
It does. All right, thank you. Commissioner Petrilla.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, Debbie, I've had the pleasure of working with you for the last 2 years. And in my limited government experience, it is just refreshing to see somebody coming in with a proposal to reduce the tax rate. But it's only possible because of all of your hard work. I don't see it the way that, Brad sees it on a day-to-day basis, but I think it's just important for the public to see how hard Debbie works, just from budgeting the fuel months and years in advance and finding these areas where we can cut cost without cutting services. Because if you go back to your slide, you actually see that there's a significant increase in the level of service that we have this year. And so because of that, I would be supporting a reduction in the rate. But beyond that, I think two important things is, one, this isn't our money. We are simply stewards of the money that the taxpayers have entrusted us with. And if we don't need the $500,000, which our finance director tells us we do not because we have a balanced budget, then it's our responsibility to give that money back to the taxpayers who paid it in. And there isn't an amount that is too small, whether it's $5, $500,000, or $5 million, it isn't our money, and the money should go back. And then, just piggybacking in on what Commissioner Driscoll and Commissioner Scheer have said about, and what I've echoed before about looking at the increases. So, for example, if we increased rates for non-residents, and they're not always tourists, sometimes they're from Pasco County, from Hillsborough County, they don't have to necessarily be tourists. But by doing an increase, since they're 40%, so a 50-cent increase for them would increase our revenue by a very significant amount because it represents 40% of the riders. So that, again, we would have an additional source of revenue, an increased source of revenue. And when that happens, my proposal is going to be that we further reduce the tax burden on the Pinellas County taxpayers. Let's give that money back. Let's charge the people that aren't from here, who are not paying into the tax bases, who are not paying in to support PSTA, and then give that money back to the PSTA residents, the people that are here, who are paying into the tax system, who are subsidizing this, for the individuals in our county who do not have other resources. I think that's great for all of us to do that. And again, when we look at those rate increases, I think we should take that money and then give it back to our residents again by further reducing the millage rate. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Gannon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, Debbie, thank you so much for your presentation, and I appreciate all the work that staff has done. And thank you, Commissioner Scott, for the AI idea, and I look forward to continued ideas. In the small, relatively, city of Oldsmar, we have kept the same millage rate for the past 30 years or so. And the way that we have done that is by letting the policy guide our decision-making as opposed to the potential amount available. And so I see a reduction in the millage rate as a policy decision that can help guide future decisions, which I think that the reduction should be pursued in addition to some of the rate increases and the other ideas that we have discussed this morning, so that we can continue to, find ways to, as you mentioned, Debbie, maintain or improve services with our connected community bus network, while at the same time continuing forward with the same policy that we have pursued, which is finding innovative ways to maintain the service and continue to use the incredible staff that we have here, and you and Brad, to accomplish those goals. So I applaud these efforts, and I will be supporting the reduction in the millage rate. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Latvala.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Debbie, what was that CFO award that you got recently?
CFO of the Year in 2023.
Okay.
You love to embarrass me.
No, and I've asked you that before
Yes.
because
Yeah, I just blush.
you're very talented. And I think it's important for us to remember that you're very talented. And I asked you the question that I asked about if services would be impacted, because I genuinely wanted to know that. And you said that they would not be, because that was important for me to know before I supported cutting our maximum millage rate. And our CEO, who also is a talented guy, surrounds himself with talented people such as yourself. And I think, just as Commissioner Gannon said, that you would know how to raise revenue at the same time as cutting the millage rate for our residents. You cut the millage rate last year at the board's direction. I think you could cut the millage rate this year if that's the board's desire, because you're the 2023 CFO of the year. And you're a very talented woman. One thing that I wanted to go on the record for saying that I would oppose is cutting routes. We went on down that road last year, and that was a very lively meeting. You know, there were some routes that I myself did not think would be very impactful until we met college students, employees, single parents working 2 or 3 jobs that relied on those routes. So it's not just numbers on a sheet of paper, it's actual people. And, you know, that's one thing that I would encourage, especially our new board members, to realize is that there's a purpose behind some of those routes, and those numbers are college students, employees, parents, so forth. Sometimes, you know, it's okay to have a cost or a loss leader in some areas. And there are some areas, because you're 2023 CFO of the year, that you can figure out areas to raise revenue. And so I oppose the amended motion on the table, because I think that you know how to raise revenue while simultaneously cutting the millage for our residents. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Seeing no further requests to speak, I'll go ahead and provide my comments prior to the vote. I do know that when we had the planning committee meeting, and there was comments in regards to keeping the rate, and the way I see the conversation today, which is very robust, and thank you for it, but coming from the planning committee meeting, it was also stated that rung with me is that we will be losing COVID dollars.
Yes.
So that's another cost that we can anticipate having to look for additional methods to cut expenses and increase revenue. So the conversation was had that if we left the millage rate at 7.7342 to help us gauge what we will be losing the following year, if we had the sufficient dollar amounts to carry us over, then we can cut the rate. We can always take it down, but we can't take it back up. So the conversation that I see here was, is it absolutely necessary to cut it today? Or can we look for the impactful contribution of our 2023 CFO of the year to bring us additional revenue generating ideas in preparation of losing those COVID dollars, on top of us looking to decrease the point to 0.7300. So that whole thing about losing money, and we know we're getting ready to lose it, it's coming. It's not a when or an if, it's a definite. We're going to lose those fundings after next year. So why not prepare for losing those dollars by seeing where we can make adjustments and increasing the revenue? Now, I'm not supporting any cutting of routes or any of that, and we're saying that by taking it down to 0.7300, we're not cutting services. Well, we can't cut services because there are a whole lot of services we still need to improve on. There are still some services that our writers are asking us to provide. So it's not about cutting services, it's about providing services. So I'm not going to support the decrease to 0.7300 because I want us to take the opportunity. We didn't have a finance committee meeting because there wasn't a quorum. Okay, let's make that statement a fact. We haven't looked at trying to see how we can increase the revenue. And yes, we do want to provide tax breaks to all taxpayers. We really do. That's one of our first and foremost. But I think the urgency in making the decision today we can always vote to take it back down. This is not the only opportunity that we have. I still want to find out how losing those COVID dollars are going to impact us. That was a conversation that was supposed to be had at the Finance Committee meeting that we had at the Planning Committee that nobody brought up here today about those dollars being cut. So I'm not going to vote today to decrease it until I can find out what losing those COVID dollars will actually do to impact us in the future. I believe in preparing. I don't want to be, I want to be proactive. So with that, that's going to be my request, is moving forward. If it passes, it passes, but then I really want to be here to hear that conversation once we lose those dollars, to see what we're going to do to regain it. So with that being said, Commissioner McCann.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just want to quickly emphasize that all we're deciding right now is the trim notice. That's it. We can always decrease the millage rate when the time comes, but let's not limit our options before we've heard from the public during the millage discussions that are coming up this fall. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have a motion on the floor to reduce the millage rate to...
No. Keep it.
My amendment.
Oh, we have to do the amendment first. Okay, I am so
keep it the
sorry.
same.
We have the amended a motion to keep it the same at .7342, and it's been properly seconded. Can you please open the voting machine for voting? So it's still not working, so we still have to do some. And this is on the amended motion.
I'm a no. No.
Walker?
No.
Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 noes and 3 yeses.
Okay. Okay, so the motion fails with 9 noes and 3 yeses. Now, the second motion that was on the floor, motion by Commissioner Latvala and seconded by Commissioner Reed, is to lower the millage rate to .7300. Can you please open the machine for voting?
So,
Yes,
Lavalla?
yes.
Petrola, yes. And Walker?
Yes.
So it's 9 yes, 3 noes.
Okay, okay. All right, so that motion passes to lower the trim notice to .7300 by 9 yeses and 3 noes. Thank you, Commissioners, for that conversation and for that vote. So now we're going to move on to item 7C, the Live Local Tax Exemption Resolution. And our 2023 CFO of the Year, Ms. Leos, is going to go over the resolution to exempt PSTA from certain parts of the Live Local Act, which was tried to vote on last month, but we didn't have enough members. So with that being said, you have the mic.
All right, well, thank you again. So today's action item is for the exemption from the Live Local tax exemption. This was brought to the committee in June, and it was voted to move it forward to the board. Unfortunately, we did not have the required number of board members present. You have to have a 2/3 vote of the local governing body. So the action item today is to approve the resolution, which Mr. Zimmett has, to opt out of providing the 80 to 120% missing middle property tax exemption. And this would go into effect January 1st of 2026 if approved. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Okay, we don't have any cards. Are there any members of the public that still wish to speak? Okay, seeing none, do we have any commissioners with comments or questions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion and second to approve the resolution.
We just read the title.
Oh, I'm sorry. Read the title for me.
Resolution number 2503, a resolution of the Nelson Coast Transit Authority Board of Directors
Opting out of providing the 80% to 120% and missing middle property tax exemption to developments that would otherwise qualify pursuant to the Live Local Act and providing for an effective date.
You didn't say AMI?
Yeah.
Did
No,
you want
80
to reread it? Just
That's right.
since it has to be official?
Sorry. A resolution of the Pinellas Suncoast Transit Authority Board of Directors opting out of providing the 80 to 120% AMI missing middle property tax exemption to developments that would otherwise qualify pursuant to the Live Local Act and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. I did hear a motion. Did I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you. Been properly motioned. And second, can you please open the machine for voting? Okay, I'm still not seeing it, though.
Yes, it's, I don't know why it's not. I have just one nay, so it's passes 11 to 1, sorry.
Okay, so the motion passes 11-1. Thank you, Commissioners. Now we will move on to item 7D, which is the Clearwater Station construction contract. Our final action item has been a long time coming, and I'm sorry that Commissioner Albritton from the City of Clearwater is not here this morning because he has been a great champion for the Clearwater Station project. Lucien Capillo, PSTA's Director of Project Management, and PSTA's Procurement Director, Al Burns, and CFO, Debbie Leas, will go over the contract award and update us on the status of the process, the protest notice that Brad emailed us. How are you, Mr. Lucien?
Good morning. Good morning, Chair Fix-Anders. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the board. This is Lucien Campillo, the new Director of Project Management. Today, we're going to go ahead and bring the action item to you to approve a contract award to J. Kokolakis Contracting Incorporated, DBA Kokolakis Contracting for the Clearwater Station construction project for a total contract value of $26,783,669 and a total construction cost not to exceed $30,802,000, which includes our 15% contingency. So bring that forward, board. It's been a long process. Looking forward to some discussions about it. I'll be followed by Al Burns. He'll talk, give a status on the procurement.
Thank you, Lucien. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Al Burns, your highly motivated procurement director, and I am so honored to be here. This has been PSTA's #1 project that we have been working on. On June 6th, we released an invitation for bid, and I apologize. I don't mean to offend anyone, but I'd like to explain in simple terms what an invitation to bid means. An invitation to bid means that you have a clear scope of work or specifications, and there is no need for discussions or negotiations. And the most important element, in my procurement professional opinion, is that it all boils down to the lowest price. There are clear and concise specifications. In this case, drawings and the specs to design and build that beautiful station that's up on the monitors. And there's no need for discussion, and it is awarded to the lowest bidder. On July 17th, we received 3 bids. One from Source One Solutions Incorporated, Bandy's Construction Company Incorporated, and J. Kokolakis Contracting Incorporated, doing business as Kokolakis Contracting. In your package, you may notice that Source One Solutions Incorporated submitted a bid price of $292,319.19. I deem that bid, to be non-responsive. Yes, when I gave the definition of invitation to bid, it is based on low price. But as I listened to the discussion on the millage, we have a fiscal responsibility to the taxpayer, and that bid I did not deem to be responsible. In procurement terms, it was unbalanced. The architect of record, CDM Smith, the project manager, construction manager, HDR, reviewed the pricing provided by Kokalakis Contracting and determined it to be fair and reasonable. And both of those contractors, CDM Smith and HDR, are here with us today. I would tell you, because of what we have budgeted for the project and based on the dollar amount that we received from the bidding community, I did what was fiscally responsible, or I deemed fiscally responsible, and we did not have negotiations or discussions with Kokalakis, but myself, my colleague Lucian Campello, and CDM Smith, the architect of record, met with Kokalakis and reviewed their bid documents and their estimating documents. And after that lengthy discussion, again, it was not negotiations. We just wanted to verify that the price that we received, they could honor. CDM Smith, the architect of record, put in writing to me that they found their pricing to be fair and reasonable. I'd like to talk a little bit about Kokalakis Incorporated. They're headquartered here locally in Tarpon Springs, Florida. They're a commercial contractor with over 50 years of experience. The firm has delivered significant projects. Among them are the renovation and restoration of Eisenhower Barracks for the United States Military Academy. Commissioner Lavada, I remember you and my son being up here when he was commissioned from the United States Military Academy. And that just made me kind of like, all right. Additionally, on the commercial side, they have numerous projects under their belt. For example, when I cross over that bridge to go to the Clearwater Beach, that Walgreens there over on the right, they built that. And one of my family's favorite restaurants, Hooters, they also built that. This project had a 15.15 DBE goal on it. And they exceeded that. That's a tremendous amount of money. Also, I'd like to add, it's not in the write-up, but additionally, over 80% of the workforce that they're bringing to this project is local, Pinellas County. You talk about having an impact to the community, that this project will have a definite impact to the community. We did a responsibility check. And Kokalakis has the capacity to perform the work and are therefore eligible for award. There's a 500-pound gorilla in the room, and that is we received a notice of protest. And one thing I just want to make sure that from me, your highly motivated, passionate procurement director, that I 1000% respect Bandy's right to file a protest. I do not take issue with that. I spoke with my deputy director this morning, Mr. David Hensler, and the thing that we talked about is process. I have a process and I follow that process. And shepherding me through that process is general counsel. We respect that company, and I assure the board and Bandy's Construction that filed the protest that we will follow the process to the letter. There were 3 elements that that Bandy says that there are discrepancies on, and I'm looking at that diligently. It is staff recommendation that we continue the process of awarding the contract and respect and allow Bandy's to continue the protest if that's what they wish. One may say, hey, what about deferring this or delaying this to August, September, etc.? It is my professional opinion, with the volatility of the market these days, that it not only could affect the construction schedule, but it could also impact the dollar value. Come August, tariffs are imminent. man, we received excellent pricing. My colleague, Mr. Campello, he read the action item. But after discussions with General Counsel, there is some nuances to that. The action today that we're asking you today is approve the contract with Kokalakis Contracting as recommended in the staff report and authorize the CEO to execute the contract upon resolution of the bid protest if a protest is timely filed. Now I'd like to turn it over to Debbie Leas, the 2003 CFO of the Year.
23.
Excuse me, 23. CFO of the Year. Thank you.
Probably then, too.
He was in high school.
Buffalo then.
My goodness. Actually, what I'd like to do is, Elizabeth, do you mind coming up for a moment? When Abhishek Dayal left, Brad put me in charge and added project management office underneath me and said, you need to build the transit center here. And Liz is the project manager, and she has been invaluable through this whole process. She is working directly with CDM Smith and HDR, and she has been a wonderful asset to me as I'm kind of coming in. And I asked Brad, do I need to watch YouTube videos on how to nail something together, or what do I need to do? So Liz has been great, and you know, we've got the renderings here. This was one Al had. This is her favorite one that she has. We've got some really beautiful things that are coming to Clearwater that is really going to connect all of Pinellas County. So this is a very exciting project. Just showing you some of the renderings of what you will be seeing soon. Now, money. Now it's my favorite time. But we have, for the construction costs, we have the contract with the general contractor of the $26.8 million. We've added some contingency in at 15% for a not to exceed on the construction of the $30.8 million. What I've done is I've outlined the funding sources for this, the largest piece of which is our USDOT RAISE grant, which was a discretionary grant that PSTA was awarded, as well as our other funding partners to get us to this being fully funded and fully under grant. So we are not waiting on any money to proceed forward. However, we do have some other action items that will be coming before you over the next month or so. One will be the CXS construction agreement, a retail broker. They'll be excited. We're going to have coffee shop, something there, and our right across the way is the Clearwater City Hall. They do not have any retail in there at all, so I think we'll get a lot of good concession revenue out of that, as well as the communication utilities undergrounding. We've already brought to the board the Duke undergrounding. This will be for all the other, like Frontier and other folks, that'll be the undergrounding. But today's action item, as we were just talking about, is to approve the contract with J. Kokalakis Contracting and approve that contract plus a contingency, so we have a construction cost not to exceed $30.8 million. With that, I will take any questions or any questions to my colleagues.
Do we have any cards on this?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So we have Ms. Jillian Bandies in regards, would like to speak on this item.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, members of the board. I appreciate the opportunity to speak this morning regarding this very critical piece of infrastructure for PSTA. As part of our protest, which I understand everyone has read, I would like to emphasize that my main hesitation in pursuing a protest was my deep, deep respect for Al Burns and the procurement department here at PSTA. I have enjoyed a relationship with Al for many years, as I have enjoyed a relationship with PSTA. Most of you know me through my advocacy work. Usually when I speak in front of public bodies, it's because of my work on affordable housing, which is very dear to me. But as it happens, I do have a day job, and that is running a commercial construction company here in Pinellas County. It's been around for 40 years. Respectfully, we have just as many impressive projects as Kokalakis does. And I'd like to point out some irregularities in the bid process which are material in nature and should give you pause in terms of your approval of this contract. As you've read in the letter of protest, there were several omissions in the bid form, some of which were quite substantive. In fact, after speaking with my attorney, there is substantial liability for PSTA should they choose to pursue this contract with Kokalakis. These irregularities include not signing a bid form. If a contractor does not sign a bid form, it renders it non-responsive. The case law is quite clear on this matter. And, I apologize for gumming up the process. As I mentioned earlier, my priority is ensuring a smooth and transparent process, both from the side of the vendors as well as the side of the agency. I realize that our protest could cause some gumming up in the works, but I wouldn't be doing this unless I didn't genuinely believe there were some discrepancies. I have respect for Kokalakis' bid, but you might note that the price differential between our two firms was extremely small. And again, I do not wish to impugn the procurement department in any way whatsoever. I am not in any way claiming that this is due to some funny business at all, but I am telling you that it is weird. It is weird to have a 0.03% margin on a $26 million expenditure with only 2 responsive firms. And as much as I would like to be that firm that is selected, I will understand if the board wishes to move in the direction of Kokalakis. I want to play nice in the sandbox, as it were, and maintain my relationships. But I do encourage you to take the time to look at this and to make sure that PSTA is protected and doing the right thing. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak this morning, and I'm happy to answer any other questions if there is open discussion.
Thank you. Commissioner Driscoll.
Thank you.
There you go. You should be.
Hit the button.
Let's see. There we go.
Thank you. Thanks to both of you for your presentation, and thank you, Ms. Bandies, for speaking and providing some of your perspective on this. And this might be actually for Alan, it is striking how close those bids. I've never seen anything like it. And on St. Petersburg City Council, we've approved some pretty hefty projects. That was just an eye-popping similarity in the amounts there. Anyway, I want to know, can we move forward? I don't want to hold up the process. We've come so far with this particular project. And I think I can see a path where we can approve this, but the protest process can move forward. I mean, we got some explanation in an email on how this works, but I was hoping that you could say a few words about the if-then of this whole thing.
Sure. First, let me start off, so the proposal for today now is to approve the contract
with the staff recommended bidder and authorize Brad to sign the agreement after the protest procedure is completed. Now, under the PSTA's protest process or policy that the board adopted, a prior version of this board adopted, that protest procedure, assuming there's no delays put in place, but the dates are pretty strict and there's not a lot of chance for delays, it would actually be concluded before the next board meeting. So if the protest was resolved and PSA was in a position to move forward with the proposed bidder, Brad could then sign the agreement before even the next board meeting, and the PSA could issue a notice to proceed to that contractor and move forward with the contract. The process under the policy, which follows, this is a federal-funded project, so the policy that the board adopted follows the federal requirements. Bannies will have 10 days from the date they initially submitted their initial protest to provide a formal written protest. Until that time, I'm real hesitant to comment on the substantive issues that were raised by Ms. Bannies today or was raised in their notice, because we don't really have any of the explanation and backup that will be required to be produced within those 10 days. Additionally, they'll be required to provide a bid bond to protect PSTA if PSTA did not award the bid and for some reason was damaged as a result of the protest and decided to, and the protest was rejected, then they could use that bid bond, which is $5,000, to cover those damages that PSTA would suffer as a result of the filing of the bid protest. After the bid protest is received, then Brad is the final decision maker. He has 15 days to issue a decision. There's an allotment of 7 days for him to try to either work out a resolution or decide to proceed to a formal written opinion that he would then issue on the items identified in the protest. So that is the procedure. It's compliant with FTA requirements. The FTA does not require that you stay or not proceed with this contract until the formal written protest and the bid bond are received. And Bannish still has time to do that, but because we haven't received the formal written protest and the bid bond, PSA is not yet protected, so if you don't proceed with the contract, at this point, you could be subject to possibly not receiving that bid bond from Bannish in the 10-day period, and then potentially not being protected by that bid bond. So that is one of the reasons why, after we talked yesterday, that Brad and staff's recommending that we proceed in the fashion that we've discussed. One thing I do want to, I feel like might help a little bit. It is very unusual. I've been doing this for a long time to have two bids on a project this size, that close. One of my partners used to be in charge of procurement for the state of Florida. I asked him yesterday about what he thought about that, and he said, first of all, it's not a basis to reject a bid or all bids just because they're close. And another way to look at it is it kind of confirms that both parties looked at the project correctly in a similar fashion. And so, in a way, you could look at it as confirmation that you have two good bids. So I'll pass that out if that helps on that note.
Very helpful, thank you.
You done? Okay, thank you so much. Commissioner DeBreezy.
Withdraw my question because Mr. Zimmet answered what I was looking for.
Okay, thank you so much. Commissioner Latvala.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Mr. Zimmet actually answered some of what I was going to ask. And I'm not really sure if he could answer this question, but would you be concerned, and I'm not a lawyer, and I'm not going to take legal advice from somebody who's not our lawyer. Are you concerned with legal liability for PSTA?
If we proceed in the fashion that we've discussed, there won't be any legal liability until Brad signs that contract. And if he's not signing the contract until the protest is resolved, then the only legal liability at this point, with this decision, no. Where there could be legal liability is if Brad denies the protest, Bannies could sue to prevent PSA with proceeding forward with the contract with the other contractor. That wouldn't be if they file a lawsuit right away, that would be to prevent us from proceeding with that contract and require the court, and ask the court to award them the contract. So there wouldn't necessarily be damages. On the other hand, if Brad upholds the protest, the other contractor can sue PSTA for
Right.
rejecting their bid as non-responsive or non-responsible, and then be subject to financial damages at that point for rejecting their bid. So, you know, we have to, we want to make the right decision because both parties have rights, as does PSTA, and there's potential litigation that can be filed by either party depending upon what the final decision is.
And I don't want to put you on the spot. Are you familiar with the case law that was mentioned during the public testimony?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And again, we've only had a day, we just got a one-page letter, you know, which is all that was required at this point in time. Till we get the formal written protest with all of the information, we're really not able to analyze the 3 items that were identified in the Banny's letter.
Okay, thank you.
Good, thank you. Commissioner Walker.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Still showing red.
I'm pushing the button. Okay, you stop and let me push it and see if that works. There we go.
Okay, all right, thank you so much. Mr. Zimmett, just for clarification, the last explanation confused me a little bit in terms of your describing the process of moving forward and then the impact of the bid bond. Can you walk me through that one more time?
So the bid bond is required to protect PSTA if the fact of the filing of the protest would result in damages to PSTA. The bid bond is intended to protect PSTA and give it a source to take the money from in order to cover its damages. So if PSTA decides to, well, legal terminology, you know, stay the procurement, meaning not proceed with the contract. And let's say, I don't know what's the period that the bidders were required to maintain their pricing?
In accordance with the solicitation on the CSO1, Section 10, it's 90 days, I believe.
So this is just an example. If the protest were to delay this beyond that 90-day period, then the bidders wouldn't be required to abide by their contract, the amount they bid. So then PSA would probably be in a position having to bid this again. And if the new bids came in higher, that $5,000 could be, that bid bond could be used to reimburse PSTA for those damages.
Okay, and then hence the recommendation to proceed with the contract today while pursuing the protest process. Fair.
Right.
Okay.
And then, again, there won't be a binding contract till Brad signs it, if that's what the action of the board today, so that there wouldn't be any legal liability to the other contractor until that happens.
Okay. This is probably for Al, our highly motivated procurement director. You know, in terms of the solicitation or the proposal evaluation, I mean, there are other factors that go into this other than cost. That would include a technical approach, management, past performance.
No.
This was purely based on cost?
Yes, sir, it was purely based off cost.
Okay.
I would like to add, we do a responsibility check on the contractors. And I know you, Commissioner Walker, you're familiar. We check SANS, we check the Better Business Bureau, we check the Florida, make sure that they're not debarred or suspended or any of those things. We also did what I would call a credit check on them, and all the sureties that they submitted for all their bonding requirements were A+ sureties.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that. I have a great deal of respect for both companies. They both have strong ties to the great city of Dunedin. And So I just wanted to make sure that I understood exactly what the process was. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Commissioner Petrilla.
I think he was first.
Well, no, it's showing you next, so.
I just had two questions, just so I understand a little better. Mr. Burns, when is the 90 days up?
I don't have the solicitation right in front of me, but I can, I'll be happy to provide that.
This is going to be
Sure.
before the next meeting, or?
I do not believe the 90 days is before the next board meeting.
Okay, so then is there any downside, since we were told that the process would be resolved, the contest would be resolved before the next meeting, to delay this to the next meeting so that we have clarification whether the challenge was actually upheld, if it's moving forward, or if it's been resolved and we don't actually have a challenge on the books?
Ellen?
Yeah, Al, the documents I have show that they were signed on July 17th, so 90 days is going to be sometime in October.
Okay, so it's going to be significantly 2 months after the next meeting.
Yeah, and I only brought that up as an example as when we could attach the bid bond. I don't think that's the reason that staff is recommending to try to move forward. It's just there's other, and Al, help me, and there are other things going on with regard to this project and to move it along and not delay it any further.
Thank you, Alan. What I would say, Mr. Mayor, is that there are other factors. Pricing is one, mobilization, keeping the project timeline on schedule. I think we were scheduled to have the groundbreaking in the month of September for the project. So there are various things that are at play here. We also, like Debbie, on one of the slides, it showed the CSX agreement. So staff is really wanting to go ahead and move forward. Also, we have two other contracts that we have in place. We have one with CDM Smith, who's the architect. And by delaying that that means we have to extend their contract out further, and that could also have fiscal impact to the agency. We also have HDR, who's the PMCM. They're under contract. So every delay, there's like a trickle-down effect across the board to our other consultants as well.
Yeah, just because something is hard doesn't mean we shouldn't do it.
I'm not suggesting that. Yes, sir.
Yeah, and so there's this cloud over this process at this point, and I feel uncomfortable until that cloud is sort of resolved. I understand that there's repercussions that it's going to be a domino effect potentially, but then also if something as simple as a missing signature was somehow missed, I mean, that's just something we have to deal with. So my second question then is, if this is there a possibility that this would have to go back and be rebid, just send out for all new bids again, or?
It's possible.
Okay.
It's possible.
I mean, that's a possibility. Additionally, I mean, the board always has the right to rebid. We include language in the procurement documents that always gives the board the authority to throw out all bids and rebid the project.
Yeah.
And if the board wanted to send it for rebid, would that resolve this issue? Because we would say we're wiping the slate clean, everybody come back, submit your bids again?
I don't know.
Legally, I'm asking, right? Will
Yeah,
that
for a
resolve
legal
this?
point, yes, that would resolve the protest if that was what was decided. But I know
So-
Brad's going to probably tell you're going to delay the project even further by
Sure.
going
I'm
through the
not-
whole process again.
I'm not saying it's not going to delay the project further, but we just had a long, robust discussion about the millage rate and increased fares and rates and whatnot else. Having been on the other side, I can see this very easily where this might actually come back with two bids that are lower than what we currently have. It could come higher, certainly. But I also think at this point, it's a very valid point that is a very, very small difference between the two bids. And I'm not saying it can't happen. I've seen stranger things happen, for sure. But there's also a possibility that if we kick the bids back, we might come back with some savings. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Scott.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, Al, I want to congratulate you on these bids coming in so favorable. I mean, this project, I think originally was considered to be around 45 million, so it's, the fact that the bids came in so nice is good. So I want to just hats off to our highly motivated and sometimes animated procurement manager, which I appreciate very much because it keeps the board meetings moving. So with that said, I just want to say it's important, in business, particularly on big projects like this, you got to keep things moving. And, we have a process that's been laid out of how we can go through this bid protest and still approve it today. And then, we'll see, let the chips fall where they're going to fall. But this has been talked about for many years. Actually, when I was on the board in 2012 to 2018, it was talked about back then. So to further delay this, to me, would just not be the right way to move forward. So I will make a motion to accept staff recommendations, and we'll go from there.
Second.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Scheer.
Well, there's a motion on the floor now, but I did have a question for our council.
If the protest is successful, does that mean that we have to come back here and approve a contract with? If the protest is successful, do we have to approve give Brad the approval to sign a contract with Bandy's if their protest is successful?
If the protest is successful, so it could be successful in a couple different ways, but let's just say it's successful in determining that the lower bidder was non-responsible, then yes, he'll have to come back to award the contract to Bandy's. But it also could be determined that there was a problem with the procurement in general, and all the bids would then probably have to be thrown out, and then he'll be coming back to the board to throw out all the bids and to go back out to bid.
Okay, so there's no way we could have given Brad the ability to approve either of these bids,
No.
depending on the outcome of the protest?
No, because, there's too many alternates there that you'd have to address. If the protest is upheld, one way or another, we'll be back to the board in the August meeting.
I wanted to avoid that. That was what I was asking the question. I wanted to give him the authority to approve Bandy's if they were successful, but if we can't do that, we can't do that.
Thank you for your confidence.
Okay, thank you for that. Commissioner Walker.
Yeah, just.
I'm pushing it. There we go.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just want to echo Commissioner Scott's comments, and I guess I'll call this a word of caution. On 90 days, I'm very familiar with the government procurement process, and I will say 90 days is just a contractual, if you will, requirement. Things change rapidly, and I am not in favor of waiting 90 days. This project has been on track and on the plan for quite some time, and it's going to be a boon for that area where it's being located. So I think in terms of the recommendation from staff, I support that. And I'm supporting it because I know that there will be a clear and transparent process that will go in parallel with this to review that protest. So that's where I stand. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner McCann.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A question for our council, because I see a tension here between not wanting to delay the process, the project, versus protecting the bid process. So if we vote to tentatively approve the award to Kokalakis today, does that in any way diminish or impair Bandy's right to go forward with their protest?
No, they'll have full right to submit their formal written protest within those 10 days. And then
like I said, Brad will have to consider that, and he has 15 days to do so.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Commissioners, for the conversation. We do have a motion on the floor that has been properly seconded. Seeing no further requests to speak, can you please open the voting system? It's not showing at all.
And it's not showing on your tablets either?
Okay, so you're going to have to call each commissioner, just call each commissioner for
Okay.
votes.
I got Reed,
Yes.
Driscoll,
Yes.
Latvala,
Yes.
Trella,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Big Sanders.
Yes,
Okay, unanimous, 12 to 0.
okay.
Oh, the other people.
Well, it didn't, the machine, voting machine didn't
It's
come.
not good.
No, some worked for some.
Oh, yours is working. Oh,
I only went
okay.
on the ones that it wasn't showing up on your tablets.
Oh, okay. Thank you. So that motion passes 12 to 0. Thank you for that discussion, and thank you so much, our highly motivated procurement director, for that presentation. Thank you. So now we're going to go to our reports and correspondence and our future meeting subjects. Brad, would you please update us on our reports in our packet and our upcoming meeting subjects? Thank you.
I would, yeah, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for that. And again, as Commissioner Walker noted, I certainly will keep the board informed throughout the next couple of weeks as this plays out on resolving and addressing the protest. In your packet is the ridership reports, and they're just ridership reports this month. The ridership for the month of May was like Clearwater Station bidding close to right even. I think a change by 0% in bus ridership overall. Future meeting subjects next month. As Alan was just describing to you, there's certainly a potential that we'll be talking about the Clearwater Station again. We are working on, Henry Lukasik, our maintenance director, and I are working on a request, Commissioner Hazelton, you had, to go through sort of a more holistic review, what I'm calling a life cycle costing model for the different kinds of buses in PSA's fleet. The electric buses, including the infrastructure costs that support those, the diesel, the hybrids, all the different kinds of buses. So we're working on that. Very happy to participate, and thank you, Chair Fig Sanders, for joining me at a announcement or an inauguration of our new UPass agreement with Orlando Health, Bayfront Hospital, and they have some other hospitals as well in Pinellas County. And we had the CEO of the hospital there, and their employees seemed very excited. They let us put informational tables in their cafeterias, and a lot of nurses and doctors and things seem very excited about that. We're happy about that. We also got we also signed a UPass contract with a small Clearwater Beach hotel, another Clearwater Beach hotel called the Hiatus. Sounds interesting. I'm gonna go check it out on a staycation, I think. And they signed a UPass agreement that we sort of marketed as a little bit of an upcharge. And so that is the first hotel we have that also their UPass will work on the Clearwater Ferry. Also will be eligible to ride the ferry. Thank you also to Chair Fig Sanders for joining our track board member partnerships to ride the bus. Track member Jay James and Chair Fig Sanders and I rode the bus one sunny day that turned into a horrendous downpour day. And full disclosure, we did not have to take the regular bus back. We had James Bradford get a bus down to us to rescue us in the downpour.
It was bad.
To get us back to our start. Anyway, that was good. I recently, I just got back from Washington DC and was with Harry Glenn, meeting with Transportation Committee leaders about, mostly about our, this issue that I've brought before the board of a potential that threatens our mobility program with our partnerships with Uber and Lyft and TNCs. And it seems very positive that even on Capitol Hill, that they want to modernize the federal language that hasn't been updated since before Uber and Lyft were invented. It covers just taxi cabs. And there's just a question of whether Uber and Lyft's will qualify for the same exemptions. And so I think we're making pretty good progress on that. And I wanted to let you know that. Next month, again, we'll have that information on the buses next month. We'll be issuing the RFP. This is an RFP, not a low bid, but price is one factor, but it's an RFP for the Cross Bay Ferry, the ferry between Tampa and St. Pete. That'll go out hopefully next month as well. I think that concludes my report. Let me just say one other thing. If you all could keep your prayers for our Chief Operating Officer, James Bradford. He's been, I don't have a status update this morning, but he's been with his young son at All Children's last couple of days. His son's having some problems, so we're thinking about him here. But we've got folks keeping things going here, even without him, so hopefully he'll be okay. That concludes my report.
Okay, thank you so much. Now we're moving on to other business. Is there any other business to discuss today? Commissioner Latvala.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to thank Brad and his team. A month or so ago, I joined them for a ride along beautiful Clearwater Beach. And the best part of the day was actually at the Clearwater Station. Beforehand, we met a gentleman who was a veteran, and he knew about the Veterans Ride for Free program. And he knew about what the great marketing team was doing, getting the word out. So that was great to see. And Brad was interacting with all the riders on the bus and the ferry. And when he could, because if you remember, there were some folks from, I think, Ireland as well as Germany on vacation. So there was some waving and smiling and handing out some sunglasses to them. But a lot of tourists, but also some service employees that were riding the ferry. So it was a pretty full day that we took it. And also, interestingly enough, I don't know if he planned this or not, but we passed the grouper coming back.
Yeah, we had a grouper sighting.
Yeah. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Walker. You lit off. You're good. You're good. Yay, it worked this time.
God, thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to make note of the fact that the appropriation, the project for the Clearwater Ferry dock in Dunedin cleared the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. So it's actually their full Senate committee will meet on that tomorrow for revision. So we're obviously very excited about that.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, thank you to Congresswoman Luna for supporting that, and then Congresswoman Castor supported a similar investment in the ferry terminal in St. Petersburg. And I think they both are right around the 800, 850 number right now, at least. Yeah, we'll see.
Thank you. Seeing no further requests to speak for other business, do any other board members have any comments that they would like to share at this time? Well, seeing none, thank you for a very productive meeting today. Our next meeting is August 27th at 9 a.m., and this meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.